Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill. And along for the ride, as you guys know, is Mitch Grawl and Dean Chambers. How you doing tonight, fellas?
Very good.
Okay.
Hey there.
All right. So, had some interesting things going on this weekend. We had our PCFL championship game. Quite interesting. We've had our Week 7 PNFL games. Some very good games that was thrown up in the batch. So we're going to run through those games. We're going to talk about the PCFL in the middle segment. And I think after that we'll probably put it to rest a little bit. I think we'll have some little minor maintenance stuff that comes up. But I think when we get to that middle segment, Dean will talk a lot more about what's going on in there. And, but the games are pretty much done for now. They start working for the off season for the next season to come about. And then, of course, at the end, we go through our Week 8 games. So if you guys are ready, we're going to go ahead and jump into this. The first thing that we have listed here, we have for our player of the week, we have Lamar Jackson from the New England Patriots. Congrats, Mox. But we're going to talk about them a little bit more further down the line. So first game up, we have Chicago hosting the New York Jets. Very tight game, very close game. I think you could say a very entertaining game. But at the end of the day, what do we say? The Jets do what they do as they took this one 28-27. We're going to start off this week with Dean.
Yeah, we watched this game in Discord. It was a very close game. I thought Chicago might have a chance of winning this game, but just barely fell short. And, Rich watched the game with us, and he noted the last few weeks that teams have had a chance to beat the Jets, but just didn't quite do it. But he seems to think that that's probably going to happen. So we'll see. We'll see who the first team is that does it.
All right, Mitch.
Yeah, another week and another game where if you are focused on completion percentage in this league, you're not going to do well. Both quarterbacks here combined under 55% completion percentage, but had nearly, combined, 500, over 250 yards combined and 6 touchdowns between the two quarterbacks. So this kind of shows that if you're going to move the ball, it's not about completion percentage in this league.
I agree. Next game up, we have Indianapolis hosting the New England Patriots. And clearly Mock said, I hear what you guys are saying. And he stepped up to the plate. As again, player of the week was Lamar Jackson from New England, and New England ended up taking this game 21-14. Mitch.
Wow, and again, another game by the quarterbacks. Both teams combined for 382 yards passing for Jackson, 3 touchdowns, and then the combo of DiNucci and Pickett, 328 for 2 touchdowns. I think there actually might be a quarterback controversy now in Indianapolis with that DiNucci coming in for Pickett and having such a great game. But Indianapolis goes down to a rival, and I am sure they are not happy about that.
All right. Dean.
Yeah, for all that total yards, 376 for New England and 405 for Indianapolis, not a whole lot of scoring, and I believe all the scoring was touchdowns and no field goals. Yeah, the field goal kickers were combined 0 for 3 attempts in this game. So not a whole lot of scoring. You'd expect more scoring for that amount of yards of moving the ball. Third down efficiency wasn't very good for either team. And New England played some overall pretty solid defense, only giving up 2 touchdowns, and played fairly well on offense. I think maybe even with those passing numbers that Mitch mentioned, I think what happened here is even more so than New England. Indianapolis, on 400 yards, only came up with 2 touchdowns, and that's pretty much how they lost the game. They just didn't score enough.
Okay. Next game up. Oh, this is going to be a rough one. We have the Denver Broncos hosting the Houston Oilers. And it's going to be interesting to see what Mitch has to say with his team as Denver took this one 34-21. Dean.
Yeah, I said when we watched this game that Denver might have been using the same game plan that he beat me with in week 2 when he had scored. I believe Denver had run like 246 or something, I think, yards. And in this game, Denver ran for a total of 289 yards and 49 attempts, 5.9 yards per attempt. The Denver rushing game was just absolutely brutal. Their passing game was, well, it was adequate. Thorson went 12 for 20, completed 60%, threw an interception. But this game was really dominated by the running game. And the Denver running backs scored 4 touchdowns in the game, which ended up being more than enough to win this game. And I believe they completed a couple of field goals as well. So I think, I'm not sure what happened other than that Houston did not play very good defense here against, certainly not very good run defense against Denver's extremely effective rushing attack.
All right. Coach, talk to me. What you got?
Well, as I analyzed this game, one stat that stood out to me that I think is very telling is that Denver scored 13 more points than Houston. So I think that was the difference, Mark.
Quick, straight to the point. I thought you were going to have more to say on that one. Okay.
Other than the fact that apparently I need to go back to physical practices this week and learn how to tackle again.
There you go. All right.
So 10 of 15 third down conversions. That's a lot of attempts at third down conversions, but they completed 2/3 of them. So that made a difference. I think when you run the ball that much, you're going to have more third down conversions because you're not throwing a lot of medium passes to pick up quick first downs. So that's why there were a lot of third down attempts, but it was effective because they made most of them.
Right. Okay. Next game, we have our overtime game between the Washington Redskins and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And definitely these two teams, I guess you could say, they're in that top tier, but in this game, somebody has to win. And in this case, it was Washington taking the victory over Pittsburgh, 41-35. Mitch.
Yeah, I thought Pittsburgh would come through in this game. Obviously, they played a very tough game, and even Trevor Lawrence got player of the game this week, throwing for 14 miles. Apparently against the Redskins pass defense. No, but they did throw for 500. I mean, 71 pass attempts. I mean, I don't know, y'all. What's going on with this game when you have to, you know, I don't know. But anyway, 500 and something yards passing, combined between the two teams, almost 900 yards passing. And neither quarterback was even at 60% completion. So very interesting, but very entertaining game. And so, Dean, what do you think?
Well, what was wrong with the offense with Pittsburgh is that they only ran the ball 13 times, which is why they had to throw the ball 71 times. And, both of these teams, I think they played defense like they were playing defense in the PCFL, because look at all these points they give up. I mean, a lot of total yards, almost 500 by one team and almost 600 by the other, and a lot of scoring to go along with it. And, at the end of regulation, they're tied at 35, and, Washington scored that touchdown to win the game in overtime. So, we've seen a lot of generally lower to moderate scoring games in the PNFL, but this one was higher scoring than many of our PCFL matchups. So it's good to see it once in a while. You'd like to at least occasionally see a high-scoring game.
Yep. Okay, we have up next is Green Bay hosting the New York Giants. I think we were kind of split on picking the winner of this one, but Shuggy stood up on this one, and ended up taking this game 26-19. Dean.
Yeah, I believe I said last week that the Packers are going to do some things, but the Giants would win the game. Well, the Packers did some things, and they won the game. So I don't know which one of us predicted Green Bay last week, but whoever that was right. Those of us predicted the Giants were wrong. The Giants just seemed kind of flat in this game. They did some pretty good rushing, which you'd expect of the Giants, but the passing game wasn't kind of average, I guess. But Green Bay just played a better game, played some decent defense, and they were able to win. Important win for Green Bay, and I don't know which way this Green Bay team is going to go this season. They win some games, lose some games, but they look pretty good in this game.
Mitch, what do you got? Did we lose Mitch? Mitch,
Did he mute himself?
Did you mute yourself?
I am here. I didn't even realize I clicked my cell phone mute. I'm like talking about the 32 rushing attempts by Green Bay. But no, they got back to their running ways, even though they didn't run for a lot of yards per carry. But they did have balance because they did, have a pretty solid game passing. So, if Green Bay can continue to be balanced here on offense, that's going to continue to help that defense out, which we've talked about in the past has, at times given up big plays, but overall has been pretty solid for Green Bay the last couple of seasons. So, solid win. And I know that folks have been calling for the Giants to bench Daniel Jones, and they did. And Anthony Richardson, quarterback for the Giants, won player of the game. But it didn't matter because the Giants still lost. So, odd how that happened.
Ouch. Los Angeles taking on Atlanta. Another tight game going on here. But at the end of the day, when the gun finally sounded, L.A., they hosted the game and they won the game, taking this one over Dean and his boys 34-28. Mitch.
Yeah, I tell you, in this game here, I know that L.A. won the game, by 6, but this game was all about player of the game, Justice Hill. I mean, you can't get much better than what Justice Hill did in this game, even in a losing effort. To win player of the game, going, getting 4 carries for 7 yards, averaging 1.8 yards. Those were tough 1.8 yards per carry out there. We're getting a blistering 3-yard long run, but he got those 3 touchdowns. So, this absolutely beast of a game for Justice Hill. Well-deserved player of the game honors, though I know that, Dean would rather have the win other than player of the game. So Dean, what do you think?
That's a quirk of the algorithm that this game uses to choose player of the game, but it's just a reminder of how absolutely deplorable our running game is, that our starting running back, or one of our starting running backs, I should say, averages 1.8 yards per carry. I think, those 3 touchdown runs are probably like on run left plays or goal line runs or something, but this game was kind of what I thought it might be, somewhat, not high scoring, but somewhat of a shootout between the two teams. I mean, those of us who remember many seasons ago, in the earlier days when Stevie joined the league, our teams usually used to play, and, we didn't play defense very well on either side, but we'd score a lot of points, and our games were usually shootouts. We played a lot of games that were like 40-something to 30-something or 40-something to 40-something, and this game kind of felt a bit more like that. I think both Steve and I might have put a little more focus on what we were trying to do on offense than the defense, and the game kind of showed that.
Okay. What do we have up here next on our list? We have Philadelphia hosting Minnesota. I think we all picked Minnesota on that one, and that was a good call because Minnesota ended up taking this game 27-21. Dean.
Yeah, I think this game was Philadelphia's chance to show us that they've arrived and they're a legitimate contender. And as for the Vikings, I think that was the goal of the Vikings, was to show us that the Vikings are going to do what the Vikings are going to do. And the game was fairly statistically close, but at the end, Minnesota pulled off the win. And this Philadelphia team is pretty solid and will only get better, but Minnesota is definitely the best team in the NFC right now, and they showed that by winning this game.
All right, Mitch.
Well, you probably figured out, Mark, where I'm going to go with this. All right.
Oh yeah, I already know.
I'm looking at this stat line here, Mark, and I'm seeing 42 passing attempts by Detroit. I'm seeing 17 completions.
You mean Philadelphia?
Or that's Detroit. We know it's Detroit. But Philadelphia, 40% completion percentage by Philadelphia. But they get 263 yards and 3 touchdowns and only lost the game by 6 points, which, was those 2 field goal attempts. And so people, you have to just wonder, maybe we just go to to start calling, call it third and T-lob, just what is it, instead of the run and shoot,
chuck and duck,
the T and the lob, or these timed deep passes, because it's just ridiculous that week after week after week we have teams that we can have stats like this and have and be able to still be in games. So, anyway, Dean, what do you think?
Yeah, maybe you might be onto something. Maybe some of us who are working on developing plays maybe should develop some better longer passing plays for pass long and pass razzle dazzle if you want to do third and long chuck and duck offense.
It's bad when you hope you get a loss on first down so you can be at 2nd and 10 plus and chunk the T-lob.
There you go. Yeah, we'll just take that knee or we'll lose ground on purpose.
Yeah, well, I think you tried that, didn't you?
Yeah, I tried it. I tried it. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. That's the new.
That was the PC. That was in the PCFL.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe that's what we do. We take a knee on first down, and then it's T-lob on 2nd and 10 plus, T-lob on 3rd and 10 plus, T-lob again on 4th and 10. Well, one of those 3 is going to hit, right?
There you go. Eventually it has to hit. Eventually it has to. So, next game up, we have Jacksonville hosting San Francisco. Jacksonville put up a fight, but it wasn't quite enough as Charlie and his Niners took this one 25-20. Mitch.
This was a game where we didn't have some of those funky statistical rarities. The only thing funky about this was that the San Francisco pass offense turned into the 2044 Green Bay pass offense, 9 of 20, not even double-digit completions. But they still won, have a strong running game, ate up the clock, got a full minute more than Jacksonville. But I don't know what the heck happened there. But probably one of Jacksonville's better offensive showings. So we'll see if they keep that going.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, I think Jacksonville actually played well enough to get a close win in this game over the 49ers, except the fact that they turned the ball over twice. And I think the 49ers benefited from that and were able to win this game 25-20. So I think that's really the biggest thing that made the difference. The 49ers ran the game very well. Ran the ball very well, 172 yards of rushing for 4.8 yards per carry. And that's classic 49ers football, the way Charlie often used to coach his team and did so this time. So they only had to pass for 20 attempts and complete 9 of them because the running game was so solid.
Okay. Last game up for week 7 and was Las Vegas hosting Seattle. And I think now it's kind of like which Seattle team is going to show up as the one that's going to try to put up a good fight and lose, or the one that's going to roll over and lose. So, yes, I can say it. It's I'm familiar with the coaching staff over in Seattle. But Vegas, despite Seattle having the point spread, they still lost this one 31-20. Dean.
Yeah, this was kind of a tough break for Seattle to play a 0-6 Las Vegas team that apparently wanted to get off that losing streak, and they did just that. The Raiders called more plays, racked up more yardage of offense, ran for over 100 yards, was really balanced, and they played some pretty decent defense, and as a result, won this game by 11 points. Tough break for Seattle.
Mitch.
Hey, Mark. How in the world did you waste an absolute dominant performance by Najee Harris, player of the game, running back, in a losing effort, absolute dominating performance, 11 carries for 65 yards, busted out a gigantic 13-yard run, to kind of lead the way for the rushers and 2 touchdowns. Absolutely wasted that Hall of Fame performance in a loss against a winless team, Mark. I just don't get it.
Neither do I.
That's Seattle. That's Seattle. Seattle does what Seattle does.
Just like Houston. So that's the quick rundown through the Week 7 games. We're going to make our pivot over to the PCFL National Championship game. You had the Washington Huskies going up against the Texas Longhorns, and it looked like at the beginning Texas was Washington started off with a score, then Texas came back and started rallying off points and thought it was going to be over, but then Washington came back, but coaching staff said it wasn't the players that cost them the game, it was the coaching staff with a couple of mistakes in the PPP, as Texas ended up taking the first championship 32-30. We're going to have the commish of the PCFL talk about it. Dean.
Yeah, I have to say one more thing regarding the last topic before we talk about the PCFL. I think between the three of us, it's kind of tough to talk trash when you look at what all three of our teams are doing right now. So, I just wanted to point that out.
Yes,
not as a way of talking trash, but
that's true.
If one of us did pretty well, it'd be a little easier to kind of talk trash about one of the other teams. But
misery loves company. So we can bash each other.
Yeah.
I'll just say that I agree, Dean. I'll just say this. I want everybody to put bets right now in the pool for this upcoming week. Which of our 3 teams are still going to make the playoffs? I'll just say.
I think they're betting on which 2 of the 3 of our teams will be facing off in the Saddle Bowl. But anyway.
I think Houston's going to be there. Yep. Mm-hmm.
It depends on how much effort you folks are going to make at tanking. Depends what kind of tanking you're doing. I mean, if you tank well like Steve does, you might start winning some games.
There you go.
But no, we played our first national championship game and finished our first season. And what we're doing right now is a little bit of beginnings of the off-season process. Teams, coaches are checking in to let us know that on the forum, on our PCFL forum, checking in to let us know that they'll be joining us for the second season. And we also are going to do briefly trying to recruit some coaches to take some of the open teams, and then we're going to soon begin the recruiting process. And there'll be some news about that soon, maybe a little bit more news directly about that in next week's show when we talk about the PCFL. And the recruiting process will probably take 3 weeks, and we'll be able to talk about that and talk about some of the recruiting battles that are going on over some of the notable players that are in this recruiting class. And after that, we'll quickly do training camp, and we'll probably be pretty much ready to start another, the second season. I think season one went very well, and so far a lot of the active coaches that were involved in season one will be coming back. There is, looks like one or two may not come back, and I know one of the reasons why one of them isn't coming back in order to put some amount of time in other football pro related activities that coach is involved in. So, who had told me that he will rejoin the PCFL when some of those things are completed. So we're hoping to get a few new people in, and we've had a couple coaches join recently over the last few weeks. So, I don't know how many teams we'll have filled, but we'll fill as many as possible and just continue to manage the unowned teams and CPU teams, and they'll still have their headless horseman style PPPs that they'll use, and they were pretty competitive in the regular season, although the CPU teams did lose in the playoffs. Right. So that's pretty much all the news there is for now regarding the PCFL.
Okay. Well, did you want to talk a little bit more about the game? From what I can recall from looking at the game, the stats are pretty much comparable for passing. Texas had 288 to Rogers, 282. Texas rushed for 130 yards. Washington 137. Again, it was down towards the end of the game where Seattle was down by 5, and instead of just going for it on all 4 downs, they took the other option of kicking the field goal, made the field goal, but then tried to do an onside kick, and they couldn't get the onside kick, recover that, so that pretty much sealed the fate. And I believe there was another mistake I think it might have been tied to the clock management. So
the game overall was well coached and very competitive, and it could have gone either way. And ultimately, the 2-point difference was that in their first 2 scoring drives, Texas Longhorns went for 2-point conversions.
Yep, that was it too. Yep.
2 points ended up being the margin, but this game could have theoretically gone either way. I mean, sure, you can look at that field goal kick at the end and not kicking the field goal. It's probably a glitch in your profile, but you'd expect that your offense would attempt to go for a touchdown there, which would have been either a completed touchdown pass for the win or an incompletion, and you lose the game by 5 points instead of 2. But it's still a close, well-coached, competitive game overall. No one coaches a perfect game. There's always mistakes. And, both of you will go through recruiting, pick up some good players, and reassemble your rosters, and be back to try to get back to that game again next year, I'm sure.
Yep, definitely. All right. We are going to jump over to our last segment that we have coming up, which is
mentioned.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, this is just kind of a preview. We've been talking a lot about the issue of ratings differentiation and all that, so I'm working on a project where I'm going to do, on an extra copy of the PNFL files, do a global edit of the ratings to show what that might look like. And when that is available, I will post on the forum the ratings model that's based on and how it was done. And then I will also, for those interested, send out a copy of these leaked files, which I think the main thing that will be useful for, the rosters will look a bit different because of the ratings being adjusted. But the main point of that is for those interested, actually run some, load up your PPPs for your team and someone else's team, and run some watch some exhibition games with these ratings and see how it's different. Basically, the files, there won't be as much ratings differentiation as there is in the PCFL in these files, because you you'd expect a bit less for an NFL level league, but the ratings will be less compressed than they are currently in the PNFL. So it'll give us a good look at, be able to watch some games with those league files and see how the gameplay goes and see what it looks like. And at least, if nothing else, it will at least show us what things could look like if this idea of having ratings that are less compressed. And either next week or the week after, I'll explain a little bit more how it's done. I mean, I'll just basically sum it up this way. We have a good amount of parity in the league as far as the overall talent of the first ranked PNFL team versus the 18th, and that will be preserved in these league files. But what there will be is more difference between, for example, your WR1 and your WR7. Instead of having 7 players that are so close in their overall talent, there'll be a bit more real difference between your starting level players, your backups, and the players that are at the bottom of your depth chart. And you'll see that when those files are released. So I just wanted to give a kind of preview of that, and we'll talk more about that as I have that project done.
Okay. We will definitely be looking forward to that, and something new to try out and, to check out and see how those, how they work and affect the game. Interesting. I am definitely curious to see this. All right. Jumping over to week 8, I see that we have one pick'em game, one game with a point spread over 10. Everything else is between 3.5 and 8.5. So, then one touchdown. So we're going to do that and jump right on into this. So, first game that we have on our list, we have Jacksonville hosting the who? Houston Oilers. And they are giving the Oilers 7.5. Dean, you're up.
This, excuse me. Yeah, this game really looks like an upset special, and I'm going to call for the upset and say that Jacksonville is going to win this game at home.
All right. Mitch.
You can go ahead and make this spread 14.5. Houston wins this thing going away.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm gonna go with Houston. I think Mitch is kind of like that animal that's in the corner, and he's getting ready to come out and start fighting again. He does not like his, how these guys have played this season, so he's getting ready to come out swinging. So he's gonna do a Steve, but he's gonna be coming out fighting. So.
But he's playing against a team that's named after an animal, though.
Do what now?
He's playing against a team that's named after an animal.
Yeah, that's true. But I see Mitch in a corner right now getting ready to start fighting. So he is not going to take another L this week. I don't see it. So next game up, we have the Chicago Cardinals taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're giving the Cardinals 3.5. Mitch.
I'm going Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh, I could have won that game this past week. I'm going Pittsburgh. I think they're going to do it.
All right. Dean.
I think the home team will win this game. Pittsburgh is good, but this will be the only game that Justin is focused on winning this weekend, and he's going to do just that. Cardinals will win and cover the spread.
Not so fast, Dean. I am going to go with the Steelers on this one. It's going to be a very competitive game, but in the end, I think the Steelers are going to be going for the upset, and I am so confident that I'm going to take Mitch's words and say, take out that second mortgage, get all your chips in together, and put them all on the Steelers for my lead pipe lock. That's how confident I am right there. Boom. Next up, we have the New England Patriots taking on the Raiders, and they are giving the Patriots and Mox 6.5. Dean.
Yeah, I think the Patriots can go in this game with a bit of confidence. They've been playing some pretty good defense lately, and their offense is looking pretty good. And, you would think maybe that's a little bit larger spread for a team that's been kind of up and down. But I'm just as confident in this game as you two are about the last two games. So I'm going to put all my chips and put a lead pipe lock on New England winning at home and covering the spread.
Wow. Okay. Mitch, what do you got?
I'm going New England. I think they're hot, and I think Las Vegas, or it's probably, still battered and bruised after the monster game Najee Harris had against them last week. So I'm going New England.
All right. I did say that Mox was to get a win. I was gonna go for them again in the next game, and this is it. So I'm going for Mox and the Pats this week. Next game up, we have the L.A. Chargers taking on the Denver Broncos. They're giving the Broncos 4.5. Mitch.
This is an interesting one here. Let's go lead pipe lock. I'm taking Los Angeles.
Ooh, upset. Okay. Dean.
Not so fast. Denver is going to continue its winning streak and win this game, even though they're the visiting team, and the Chargers have a pretty good offense. But Denver has a really good defense, and they run the ball very well, and they pass the ball well enough, and seem to be a little more focused on making big plays in the passing game rather than high completion percentage. So I'm all in on predicting Denver wins this game.
Okay. I'm going to side with you as well, and I am going to go with Denver for the victory as well. Let's see here. Wait a minute. Okay. Mitch picked his. I got mine. Okay, next up, we have the Indianapolis Colts. Ooh, taking on the Washington Redskins. They are giving the Redskins 7.5. Dean.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough visit for the Redskins going to Indianapolis, and I think Indianapolis is going to have some incentive here to prove that they're still legit. So the Colts win at home.
All right. Mitch.
Let's go with the Redskins.
Okay. I am going to concur with you as well. I'm going to go with the Redskins for this victory also. Next game up, as we come down to our final four games, we have the New York Jets taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. They are giving the Eagles 9.5. Mitch, you're up.
Yeah, I think the Philadelphia/Detroit Eagles will probably have another game where they have a 40% completion percentage. But they will only throw. They will barely even scratch 200 yards passing. I'm going with the Jets.
All right, Dean.
The Jets have barely won the last 3 weeks, and that can't continue. So something has to give. And I think the Eagles' passing game will be more effective with the quarterback change than a 40% completion rate. I'm predicting the Eagles in the upset for winning this game.
Not so fast. What do we say? The Jets are going to do what they're going to do. Is they are looking kind of beatable this season, but not this week. The Jets are going to take this one. Next,
you're both giving James some really good locker room material here to win this game.
Yep, I know. Nothing else. Hey, we'll see what he does. Next game up.
All the help he can get, man.
Next game up is our only pick'em game of the week. We have the New York Giants taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Mitch, you're up.
Ooh, man, this is going to be a barn burner of a game right here, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'm interested to see if Anthony Richardson is the starter again this past week. He did win Player of the Game honors in the loss. Who's the home team again in this game? I'll go with the
Giants.
Giants.
Okay.
I'll go with the Giants.
All right. Dean.
Well, if assuming Richardson starts, this will be a matchup between the two quarterbacks that were taken back-to-back in that draft. You'll all remember as soon as I drafted Hendon Hooker, the very next pick was the Giants drafting Anthony Richardson. And, those two players might be pretty important in this matchup. And I kind of foresee a high-scoring game, and I think the visiting team will have a few tricks for the Giants.
Dean, I do remember that draft and when those players were drafted, and I remember commenting how both of those quarterbacks were way out, picked way too early. But it looks like being that both the Giants and Falcons are combined 1-13, looks like those picks turned out well for you guys. So nice job.
Well, that 1-13 is not due to those picks. I think that 1-13 is due to some teams not really playing much defense.
All righty. Play nice, boys. I'm going to go with the Giants
I'm just having some.
I'm going with the Giants this week. I think it's going to be a tight game, but I think that extra bonus for the home, playing on the home field is going to favor the Giants. If this was flipped to Atlanta, I would give it to Atlanta, but this week I'm going to give it to the Giants. Last two games, Seattle Seahawks at home taking on the San Francisco 49ers. They are giving the 49ers 8.5. Dean.
Yeah, that spread's a little bit too large. I think Seattle is going to play well and rebound from last week, but it's not going to be quite enough. 49ers will win, but they're definitely not covering that spread.
Mitch.
I think it's all about Najee Harris. If Najee Harris has another beast of a game like he did this past week, then San Francisco will probably win. I can't remember the guy's name anymore, but that little quarterback of yours, if he wins Player of the Week, Seattle wins. So I'm going to go with Seattle. You know what? Why the heck not? What have I got to lose here?
All right. And Zach Wilson's the quarterback.
Oh, that's his name. Yes. Yeah. I forgot, because, you paid that big ransom for that backup last year who's no longer on the team. So.
Yeah. How's your team? How's your team doing this season, Dean? I mean, Mitch, how's your team doing this season?
They're going to be a playoff team. That's what my team's doing.
Okay.
They'll be a playoff team. Don't you worry about your own team there.
Right.
I got my team.
I got one word on this one. Go Hawks. There we go.
Forget Zach Wilson, who was taken in the top 5, the same draft when Justin Fields was taken in the top 5.
Yeah.
Mm.
Justin Fields probably should be starting for 17 other teams in this league.
Okay. Last game up, we have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Green Bay Packers. This is our one large spread. They are giving the Vikings 13.5. Dean.
Well, yeah, if any of those teams want to just perpetually go 4-12 every season, then by all means send Justin a trade offer that he can't refuse. But no, as for this game, the big purple dinosaur might be in jeopardy, or at least the big thing that will be in jeopardy is that 13.5 spread, which is pretty, I think, inflated. So I think the Packers will do some things and play tough, but the Vikings are still going to do what they do and win, but not by 2 touchdowns. So Packers will cover the spread, but the Vikings will win the game.
All right. Mitch, I already know because I see you with your pom-poms out. Go ahead.
Hang on, I got to get that opera singer horned helmet thing on here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Minnesota's going to win this game, but I agree with Dean. I think it's going to be a closer game than that 13.5. In fact, I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I bet it's going to end up being a single-digit game. 9 points or less.
All right. I'm going to go with you, Mitch, and I'm going to go with the Vikings as well for the victory on this one. So, I think they're going to pull this one off. So, all right, guys, we are right on target with our show. Going to wrap this up. Definitely congratulations for Texas. I guess that's Justin's team with the Texas Longhorns in the PCFL. Congratulations to Dean on running the season in the inaugural league or inaugural year, and looking forward to the off season. So, as we make our last rounds through the table, we will start with Dean. Any final words?
Yeah, I'll just say that if all three of our teams lose next week, then it becomes more likely that the three of us will be looking at the playoff races at the end of the season as spectators and not participants. And the thing that we might be looking at with a little more interest in terms of our own team is who has the chance of making it to the Saco Bowl.
All right. Mitch, any final words for you to take us home, sir?
Well, I'm already preparing for my wild card game for the playoffs, so I'm good. Y'all have fun in the Saco Bowl together. I'm kidding. No, it's going to be an interesting week this week. A lot of matchups that could make a huge difference, even though we still got half a season to go. A lot of games that could really set the stage here for the second half. So should be fun. Friday Night Lights, normal time this week, 10 o'clock Eastern. I will be back in the saddle again. I want to thank Dean for taking over the captain's chair the last couple of weeks as I've been out of town and working on a few other things. But look forward to being back in the chair this week. So get your PPPs in. And, if the time changes, I'll let you all know. It's kind of depending on how the day goes. But we'll look at 10 o'clock Eastern for now. And who knows, maybe a little earlier, depending on how my day goes that Friday. So looking forward to it. So, Mark, the only thing left to do now is let's get it.